Alright, welcome back to another edition of Socialists Are Stupid. Today I'm going to be going over understanding Trump. Because a lot of people don't understand him. Even Republicans don't understand him. But before I do, I was going to go over a few highlights of what's going on right now lately if you haven't heard. The FBI agent McCabe, he flat out lied. And we have video proof of it. Because he had an interview with NBC. And he flat out said that Trump broke the law, and there might have been a crime when he fired Comey. Well, about a year and a half ago, there was a Congress Oversight Committee or Senate Oversight Committee, and he flat out told them that Trump had every right to fire every constitutional right to fire Comey if he so wanted to. So there was one good fat lie there going on today by the left. Also, I was going to talk about the wall real quick. The wall fund money. Some people were some Republicans and conservatives were not very happy. You only got $1.375 billion. But the good news is there's about $3 billion more dollars available that the courts can't stop him from using. So he beat him again. And he's going to have probably about $4.5 billion. So that'll build several hundred miles of walls, and that's pretty cool. He's already building them down there anyway, and I keep hearing every once in a while people saying, well, he's not building. I'm like, yeah, he is. I've seen drone footage. I've seen videos of people, of construction companies building his steel slat fencing or wall structure. So he's already building it, and he's going to be able to do much, much more. The other funny one, I saw one today. Well, Bernie Sanders, he never surprises me, but he kind of did today. It was kind of funny. He said when he was going to run, he's going to run for 2020, and he said that people need to vote Trump out of office because he upset people. Upset people. Really? So I thought that was pretty funny. I had to laugh at that. All right, so let's go over Donald J. Trump. For those of you that don't know much about his past, I'm going to go through that, and I'm going to go through some other things that he's done that the bought and paid for news guys always screw up and flat out lie about. So first, his grandfather came here from Germany in 1885. He migrated to the west when some of the last gold rushes were going on to Washington and parts of Canada. I guess he didn't do well when it came to the gold mining, but he was good at boarding houses and small places where he could rent to people. And so he began to make very good money doing it. And then he eventually went back to Germany where he met Elizabeth. They came back to America, married in 1902, and they had a son named Frederick, or Fred. They commonly called him Fred when I was doing my research on him. And let's see, shortly after, Fred was born, Frederick, his dad, died in 1908, or 1908. So 15-year-old Fred helped his mom take over the business in Queens and Brooklyn is where they did all their stuff, and they had apartments, homes, and so they were doing quite well. And she called it Elizabeth and Son is what she called it, and it was called that for many, many, many years. Once Fred grew up a little more, he met a girl that came. Let's see if I had her name written down. Let me see. Oh yeah, it was Mary Ann MacLeod from Scotland. So they got married in 1930. 1930. Let's see. She came over in 1930. They got married in 1936. They had 5 kids. Mary Ann, Fred Jr., Elizabeth, Donald, and Robert. Well, Mary Ann, she went on to legal attorneys, and she became assistant district attorneys, and then attorneys. Later on in life, Ronald Reagan hired her, and so did Bill Clinton. He also hired her. Now Fred Jr. he didn't want to help out with the family business, and he ended up being an airline pilot, but died early in life due to alcohol related. He was an alcoholic, and so that's one of the things that. That's one of the reasons why Trump won't drink. He doesn't drink. It's an insult to offer him a drink. So instead of saying "hold my beer" when he goes and does something crazy, I've heard sometimes "hold my Diet Coke" because he likes drinking Diet Cokes. So Donald kept helping his mom out, and then the daughter Elizabeth, she went into the banking industry, and then Robert helped him out for a while in their business, and then he eventually retired quite early, and then he was totally out of it. Let's see. Okay, for Donald, living up in Queens and Brooklyn, he used to sneak out a lot and go all the way down into Manhattan, and his parents found out about it. So they sent him off to a boarding school and then a military school. And from what I've found in there, he excelled quite well in some sports. And once he graduated from there, he went on to a business school, of course, because that's what their family does. But he wasn't happy after about 2 years, and so he was looking around and he found the Wharton School of Financing. And there was a requirement back then they had to have at least 120 IQ scores. And if you don't know what a 120 is, 120 is smart. It's way up there in being quite intelligent. And so don't let the media, when they always talk about him being stupid and stuff, and I'll talk a little bit more about that to remove their stupidity of saying that. So he got through Wharton School of Financing and went back with his mother, and they eventually, I think it was in 1972, 1971, he renamed it the Trump Organization, which became the hallmark Trump brand throughout the world, and that's what he's best known for. Let's look at, okay, yeah, Donald has been married 3 times, twice to immigrants. So, yeah, I love it when they say he hates all immigrants. Yeah, he's married 2 of them. First one was Ivana. She was from Czechoslovakia. She was a model. They had the 3 kids. They had Ivanka, Donald, and Eric, which those 3 have now taken over all his corporations once or right before he became president. And so those 3 are taking care of everything for him there. And then Marla Maples. So he divorced Ivana, married Marla. They had Tiffany. And then he divorced her, and of course married Melania. She's from Slovenia. She's, of course, a supermodel. One of the prettiest first ladies I've ever seen. And, of course, they have Barron. Barron reminds me a lot of my youngest boy. Skinny, tall, except my youngest boy likes to talk like a maniac, and it seems like Barron's pretty quiet. So then, let's see, what else was I gonna go over? If you want to understand Trump a little bit better, one of the first things you need to do is completely forget that he's a politician. That's the best advice that I can give you, and just act as if he's just a buddy hanging out next to you in a bar or in your house or whatever. Just BSing with you. Because Trump came from New York. He came from Brooklyn. And most people know how a lot of those guys are what they're known for. They're bold, they're brash, they're confident. Yeah, they exaggerate some, but they're powerful, and they're going to let you know it. And Trump had to be that way in order to survive in his business. And so that's some of the things that I talk about that you need to think about when Trump is talking. I'll give you a quick example. Right when he wanted to run for president, when he came down from the escalators and he gives his speech, and one of the things he says is, we got to build a wall because everybody coming over across the border illegally is a criminal. Now, to the left and to the news medias, they freak, of course. What do? He's a racist, right? Trump doesn't articulate very well, but he's actually telling the truth there, and he usually does. And a lot of people can't handle it, and I'll explain. When he says all illegals are criminals, they are. Because the moment you cross over the border illegally, you become a criminal. This is common sense thinking here. So it's not that difficult. It's not rocket science. And so he's right. He's just kind of crazy in how he talks. They hate his Twitter as well because he just spits it out, and they hate it. The left just can't stand it. And of course, the other news medias go crazy on it. I'll go through a couple more of those things here in a minute. Yeah, another thing that you can learn a lot about Trump is if you actually download his old book, Art of the Deal. You can really see how he is and how he interacts with people. If they're not a threat to him, you can see him just extend his hand. He smiles. He's very engaging. He's very nice. He's very pleasant. But when it comes to negotiating or somebody coming down on him, yeah, he's a bulldog, and he's the master negotiator. You can't win as much as he has without being very strong, very intelligent. Before I go into his business stuff, I did want to say something. This is another thing that the media twists about him. You remember back in the election cycle when they said he was a draft dodger? I did some research on that as well. And he was in college. He had a college deferment, as other millions of Americans did during the Vietnam War. They're in college, so they get a deferment. He later got a little medical deferment for something, and I found bone spurs, but I don't know. I guess you can't get in if you got bone spurs. So, but then he got a very high number, a very high draft number. And that means that you have a very low chance of being drafted. So, media and the left were wrong again. He's not a draft dodger. That's one example I'm going to give you. Another one I'm going to give you is his bankruptcies. I have a feeling they'll probably start bringing those up again, just like they did during the election 2016. They'll do it again in 2020, I'm sure. If you look at Trump's worldwide organization, he had literally thousands of companies under him, underneath that Trump organization brand, which meant that he did thousands upon thousands of deals. Casinos, golf courses, just building buildings. And so he failed at 5 or 6 deals. And I know one of them was like a football team, one of them was he did so many of them. One of them was a casino. I can't remember the other ones off the top of my head. There's like 5 or 6 of them. So when you look at the ratio with which people succeed in his line of work, it's about 50-50. You have a 50% chance of succeeding and a 50% chance of losing. So if he only lost 5 or 6, and even if he did 1,000 or 2 deals, that is an unprecedented amount of success. That's unheard of. Companies fold all the time. They jump back up again and hire some more people and make a product and blah, blah, blah. So he has probably a 95-98% success rate, which is crazy, phenomenally good. So that's another debunking of the left that we're probably going to hear more of again. The other one is taxes. I talked about taxes in one or two of my other videos. They say, oh, he didn't pay his taxes. I heard Congress even wants to, because Pelosi's in there, they want to pass a bill to make him show his taxes. Well, how about they make all Congress people show their taxes? I think that would be fascinating to learn from. Because look at Pelosi. She makes $225,000 a year or something like that, and she's been there for a decade or 2 decades. So she should have made about $5 million. Well, she's worth about over $150 million. Yes, she has a. My computer just went blank on me there for a second. Yes, she does have a vineyard in California, but it's not a major, humongous brand where she's making an incredible amount of money. She's not. So I'd like to know where the rest of that money came from. Obama was the same way. Obama should have made, in his 440,000 a year, he should have made about 3 or 4 million. Well, he came out with 40 million. So, he had a book deal, but it didn't go that well. So I'd like to know where the rest of that money came from. That'd be fascinating. So the left does this stuff all the time. So when it comes to Trump's taxes, the news media and the left loves to forget about that Congress passed these loopholes and these laws. So he just used every law possible to pay the taxes that he has to. Big corporations can hire these huge law firms to find all those loopholes that know them all. They can hire the best people. But the small businesses, the millions of them that are around, can't, and so they still pay a tremendous amount of taxes, and that's why they struggle to survive. But his tax reform did help all those small businesses like crazy. And then I have to flat out say, well, don't you think, using some common sense here, don't you think that the IRS would have nailed him in 2016 if he didn't pay all his taxes he's required to pay? I mean, come on. He paid his taxes. Yeah, he doesn't pay a lot because, he's got all these deductions and all these loopholes. So when they start going into his taxes, there's the answer for him. That's just stupid. Also, he's separated from his corporations. They talk about sometimes he's making money because he's doing all these things overseas. He sold his company to his kids. He no longer has any stock in it. And they love to forget about the day, it was a few days before the inauguration. He stood with his bunch of people behind him with a table. And there was like a foot and a half, 2 feet by 3 or 4 feet long of papers removing himself from all his corporations. He still had about 500 corporations out there worldwide. And so the media loves to forget about that, and so does the left. And they will continue to forget about that. And will continue going after him. So, Twitter, before I end this, Twitter's another one. A lot of people, even Republicans, sometimes don't like it. They wish he'd just shut up on the Twitter. But the good thing that he does that is we can see what he's thinking, what he wants to do. When somebody's lying about him and it gets on his radar and he catches it, he's going to let him have it. And so this is just the way Trump is. And he's not going to change. He is like an alpha male, I guess you'd call him. And so it's going to be pretty interesting in 2020 coming out. We'll see what happens here. It's going to be pretty fascinating. So that's enough for today, and we will catch you guys again. See you later.